She's a professional dancer.
Welcome to the February 13th meeting of the Ames Community School District Board of Directors. I'll call the meeting to order and take approval of the agenda.
I move approval. Second.
Moved by Esposito, second by Franson. Discussion. Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Passes 6-0. Director Franson, would you please read the mission statement?
The mission of the Ames Community Schools is to ensure that all learners develop the knowledge, skills, attitudes, values, and personal esteem necessary to grow in and shape a changing society.
Thank you. Our first item tonight is a public forum. We have 4 people wishing to speak. Residents of the district, students attending the district, parents or guardians of students attending the district, and district staff may address the board about any topic relevant to the district, whether on the current agenda or not. Those who wish to speak must sign up at the beginning of the meeting. Speakers' participation is limited to 3 minutes once per board meeting. The views and opinions of citizens addressing the board do not necessarily reflect those of the board, district administration, or staff. We ask speakers to remember that Iowa law prohibits the board from discussing specific employees or students or their performance. Student speakers will state their name and school. Others will state their name and address. First, we have Helen Litvich.
Good evening, Helen Blitfitch, 3300 Eisenhower Avenue, Ames. I'm here on behalf of over 300 Ames Community School District parents, family members, friends, concerned citizens who have all signed the following petition. Our kids deserve the opportunity to develop to their full potential with experienced staff and evidence-based curricula. We support our teachers and believe in an environment that values our diverse ideas, creativity, and innovation. Currently, too many teachers feel silenced and insecure in advocating for our children. Parents and other community members do not feel heard in their interaction with the district. The integrity of the Ames Community School District has been damaged. We are asking for structural changes within the Ames Community School District, including greater accountability of the district's administration by including input from teachers and parents in evaluations and improving administrative transparency in decision-making. A separate position for curriculum development. Power is too concentrated in 2 positions of superintendent and associate superintendent. An independent human resource officer who would report to the board. We, the undersigned, expect a public discussion and action on each of these items. Our children and our community need strong schools and empowered teachers in order to thrive. I have copies of this petition just here. What reasons do we have to request an independent human resource officer, curriculum development officer, and transparency and accountability for those who run the school district? Over the past year and a half, many issues have made parents frustrated as well as teachers. It was blatantly obvious that the initial selection of reading programs for the pilot were inappropriate. Time and money were wasted selecting programs, yet no one was held accountable for the poor choices in programs or the money wasted. Why? It was stated that Dr. Reed was consulted when the initial 3 programs were chosen, misleading the board and the public that there were appropriate programs. As a director of the IRRC, she cannot recommend or approve district reading programs, and again, no one is held accountable for this. In the initial pilot was presented to principals on the morning of May 19, 2016, yet an entirely different pilot plan was explained to parents and board members that afternoon. However, when there was an outcry over the choice of reading programs and the pilot change, no one was held accountable. Why? Approval of foundations at Fellows. The public was led to believe that Fellows purchased this program against district policy, yet the purchase order was signed by our district administrators. No one corrected this, and again, no accountability. Why? The impasse between Carol and administrators of the school district was never fully addressed to the public. Our district let the principal of the top performing elementary school in our state go. Again, no accountability. The district administrators and board members also stated that Carol Page resigned and that there was no connection between the literacy program currently piloted. However, Carol stated in an interview with the Tribune that she never resigned and that the impasse was about the literacy plan. Again, please explain why the contradictions. Parents in the other elementary schools were not aware of the pilot until conferences and were frustrated by the lack of communication. This was not just a Fellows issue, yet we are led to believe that it was. because there has not been any communication, apologies or accountability. Why? In 2015, our district administrators led us to believe that they were doing several things to support students with dyslexia, including purchase of foundations. However, 2 years later, they are stating that they are not looking at Tier 1 reading programs that support students with dyslexia. Yet, most of these students are in Tier 1. Again, where is the accountability? Emails go unanswered, both from the board and administrators. We get it. You are sometimes inundated by emails. Could that be because you have parents and teachers that are concerned about our district? Transparency and accountability are needed in order for this district to function. You cannot continue to ignore our concerns. Every board meeting, we have the opportunity to speak at the open forum. But for those of us that do speak, our questions, concerns, at times are unanswered or ignored. You say you are listening to us, but your lack of actions tell us that you are not. We need a positive change for our representatives. We need a live dialogue similar to the City Council meetings. It has been stated by board members that it will cost the district 2 classroom teachers and increase classroom sizes in order to pay for a human resource officer. That feels like punishment to students, parents and teachers for asking for something that will make our district stronger. As a board, you can be more creative with your budget than that. Do we need so many teachers on special assignments that get paid extra and aren't in the classrooms? Do we need so many coaches? If we have a devoted curriculum development officer, maybe we won't need so many teachers on special assignment. Can we make budget cuts in other areas? Our state school funding has been cut. We are well aware of that. However, this does not mean that you can use that as an excuse for not considering or approving the need for a human resource officer and a separate curriculum development officer, or to find ways to improve transparency in our district. We recommend that you make financial and strategic plans available to taxpayers to review, evaluate, and recommend. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Karen Stein.
Good evening, Karen Stein, 2503 Ridgetop Road. We have over 45 comments on this petition and growing. It's a live petition. We are going to read some of the comments that parents have left behind on this petition. First comment by Ashley. I am signing it because politics and personal agenda is being put before logic, common sense, and our children's well-being. I support the call for an independent HR officer. That is clear common sense in a district this size, especially since there are clearly issues and no accountability. I also echo those that feel they have no voice and the power is too concentrated within the superintendent and associate superintendent. Because of their words and actions, I lack faith that they have our children's best interests in mind. Darla, for too long, the administration has only given lip service to teacher input. Choosing a phonics program is just one example. 17% of the decision, losing the fellows teachers, wouldn't matter anyway. For years, one administrator has pleaded and petitioned for a careful sequence, research-based phonics program. Because the administration didn't listen and because it was the right thing to do for our kids, the fellows PTO bought an effective program. What happened after that is unbelievable. Power is concentrated in the hands of one person. Please take steps now to make sure this doesn't happen again. Laura, I feel our superintendent and associate superintendent have too much power and not enough accountability. Karen, sign this petition because all teachers in our Ames Community School District need to voice what is truly best practices and best for our children. All children, both current and future students, have the right to be included in all fundamental programs, regardless of high achievements or learning disabilities. We need to have a program that is inclusive, not exclusive, such as a chosen program by our current administration. Jessica, I'm disappointed in many of the decisions the district has made, such as the dismissal of fellows principals and closing the Blue STEM Institute and the lack of transparency. Allison, I am very concerned about the abuse of power from school administrators and saddened by Carol's forced retirement. Kathy, there's no communication from the board of directors regarding their rash decisions based on what Tim Taylor reports to them. They got no background from anyone other than his office. Not only is Tim the superintendent and the human resource officer, he is the quality coordinator according to the Iowa Department of Education. They said they did not support any one person being 2 of those positions, let alone 3. I am disgusted by the Ames Community School District leaders. How is putting a body in Carol Page's chair going to calm all the parents down? What kind of candidates are going to be hired mid-year? Big mistake. Judy, I believe in phonics. From what I'm reading, I understand the administration is top-heavy with experts. Save money and get rid of a few of them. Natalie, more transparency is not an option, but a requirement. Brandy, our teachers work so incredibly hard with each one of our students. They know each one's strength and weakness. They know how to help these children thrive and work daily to do so. They know better than anyone what tools they need to help each child be successful. Give them a voice and listen. David, this will improve the school district by giving our teachers a voice without fear of retribution from the administrators. Companies do this. Why wouldn't a school district? Well worth the money for the students, teachers, and administrators.
I didn't get a chance to sign up, but I'm with Karen. Is that okay? It'll just take like a minute.
Okay. Just state your name and address.
Okay, thank you. Karen Leon Simons, 2714 Valley View Circle. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Stephanie, I'm signing because things need to change now. Our kids and teachers deserve better from all of us. Virginia, I'm signing this so that Ames can continue to be an inclusive, thriving community. Our children deserve only the best from their parents, their teachers, their school board. Gray, I support things that will benefit my kids' education. Chase, we have really wonderful teachers in our community. They're in the trenches doing the hard work. They're innovative and challenging. I want their voices to be heard and their ideas to be recognized. I'm signing this because I want a positive environment that protects and encourages discussion and participation from everyone. Ken, an education should be more than learning to perform well on standardized tests. Children need to be exposed to the wonder of the natural world, the excitement of discovery, the transcendence of art and music. They should have time every day to be a child and do childish things. Teachers know best how to connect with children. They do not need direction from administrators far removed from the classroom. It's time for the parents of Ames to support our teachers and children. It's time for a new school administration. Thank you very much.
There is one last thing I did want to share with you, and please use this opportunity to see us as your eyes and ears. Walking around in the Meeker and the Sawyer and some of the Mitchell areas, there are a lot of parents who never received an email from the administration that their kids are in the pilot program. The only reason they found out was because of their conference, and they're angry. What they said is, we ended up using our conference time to find out that my child was in a pilot. We never received any emails from anyone. And when they talked to the principals told them to talk to Dr. Taylor or Dr. Ross. A lot of parents said they called without any answer, no callbacks. There's a lot of parents who are very angry, and we need to figure out how to fix that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have John Basper.
Hi, I'm Jahan Faisal. I live at 1316 Coolidge, and I'm a parent to 2 fellows kids. I want to start by thanking Director Rosser for his question last board meeting about the racial achievement gap in the report card. That's really what I would like to talk about today. There was a comment that Mandy Ross made that was very troubling to me. The comment was, "Not all kids are raised like we were." I have watched over and over the video clip of that comment, trying to understand what the intent was with that comment. I have played it with other people, trying to divine what else could that comment possibly mean. And maybe her intent was, we need to understand where kids are coming from in order to meet their needs. But what she actually said was, the Ames community had changed recently, and not all kids were raised the way we were. And that is a really troubling framework for this complicated problem. It identifies African American students and families as outsiders, it others them, and it invokes racist tropes that African American families do not value education. The problem is not that these kids are Black. I would really like to hear a discussion about whiteness. I would really like to hear a discussion about white bias in our school systems. I think that would be a fantastic, useful, and really important place, a much better framework for this discussion. And I return to the board to ask, what is a reasonable expectation of board members when a high-level administrator makes a comment like that? I was stunned by the silence in the face of that comment. It is the responsibility of board members, particularly white board members, to question and identify white bias in their systems. And this can only happen if white board members educate themselves about whiteness and white bias and racism. This has to happen at a leadership level. This has to happen before looking at exterior factors like attendance. You have a lot more power over your own system than you will ever have enforcing attendance rules with families. I promise it will be a better place to invest your energy and the power that you have. I encourage each of you to start by examining your own systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Alex Jacobson.
Hi. My name is Alex Jacobson.
Sir, if you could address the board, that'd be good.
Address it's
Sir, could you just-
3334 South Dell.
Sir, could you
I
address
have
the board?
only 3 minutes to speak, so I like to speak with people who are going to listen to me.
And let
Because
me- sir-
I spoke with some principal, and I said, look, bus company doesn't care, district doesn't care, you doesn't care. I'm going to speak with board, and generally he told, well, you have 3 minutes to talk. It's not the dialogue. So it's no guarantee they will listen to you. So I try to speak with people who make this district really great. I hear some comments last time. One of the technocrat or bureaucrat told, oh, we did this and this in our district. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a really unique district, but not because of some people who maybe do his job properly, but because it's a lot of good parents who care about education. So I spend my time to speak with you. Now, I see a lot of conversation and I go to the board, but actually I don't think this is all board folks or superintendent. I explain why. Because like we make like we parents care about education and our job to do district run better. What we fault, in my opinion, on situation, we come to district and ask them once, we ask twice, we ask 3 times, and sometimes numbers of people who are asking bigger and bigger, and actually doesn't change. You see district not can't or don't want, so we need to take action. I'm from Soviet Union. Half of Soviet Union was champions to build heavy, bureaucratic organization with heavy walls. But when you have heavy walls, somebody expert who build heavy walls, you have other half who is expert to throw these heavy walls. So, and I'm one of these who was in this situation dozen times. So what I suggest, and I already started it, if we can't get answer from the board, it's fine. We're going to do it ourselves. It's a lot of organization, departments, government branches who should help us. We taxpayer, we pay money for them. It's a lot of volunteering organization who love to help us because they good people. They just want to help. I already start to do something, and I believe it start to work because some people who ignore me 9 years start to invite me to the meeting. So what you're doing, you did fantastic job. Continue what you're doing. Petition, it's great. It's really what we need. We need to change face of the board. We need to do it, but we don't have much time. Each year it's critical. We need to change this now. So what I ask from you guys, if somebody, like my English is broken, I don't know how the system works, I really need the help to go and speak with these department branches and organization. Maybe we even can find good person who is a lawyer. It's kind of sound weird. Bill, can we find a lawyer and same time good person? Is it possible?
Sir, if you could finish up, please.
Oh, okay. Bill don't want to copyright with me, it's fine. So maybe some lawyer will be help to us. Maybe we need to hire, what I ask, 3-4 people who are ready to make a change now. Please contact with me. Thank you very much. Please don't see it like disrespect. I just want to address my speech to people who want to listen to me. Thank you.
Closes the public forum. Moving on to our first discussion item tonight, Northwood Experience.
Good evening. We would like you to imagine 3- and 4-year-olds investigating their school and what is behind the closet doors. Imagine preschoolers going on a field experience to Great Plains Pizza, getting curious with the kitchen staff about the process to make a pizza. Picture 3- and 4-year-olds on the floor of their classroom using persistence to create a detailed observational drawing of the harp that was brought in by a community expert. Tonight, we'd like to share with you one key component of the Northwood experience, the project approach. So why the project approach? This work began last year at as the Northwood staff engaged in conversations to deepen our understanding of the district mission and the ED plan and how it connects to the Northwood experience. As a staff, we engaged in a process to recommit to our school's mission and vision. From that work, the project approach was identified as a universal design for learning, supporting our mission of engaging all learners, from our 3- and 4-year-olds all the way to their parents and the community. Our vision is to create a caring learning community that fosters lifelong learning. The project approach fosters the following key lifelong learning dispositions measured by the GOLD assessment: curiosity, collaboration, persistence, flexibility, and reflection. 7 preschool teachers and myself attended a week-long professional learning at St. Ambrose University in Davenport with co-developer Dr. Lillian Katz in order to deepen our understanding and implementation of the project approach. 3 of the teachers that attended this training are here tonight to share their voices of each phase and how it's impacting the student learning: Kendra Wiesenberg, Ashley Morgan, and Jill Spencer.
Okay, I'll be sharing about the first phase. To get started, we begin our year by learning about our students, their interests, their hopes, and their dreams. The students are able to share about themselves as we get to know them. We do home visits also to get to know the families and to be able to develop that within our classroom. As we move on in our phase, we begin to create curious learners. Through that, we develop that and try to create that interest in the world around them, developing an understanding of people and the people in their community and how they live. We're able to make connections of their home life with school and developing that, helping them to learn to work in groups, practice sharing their memories and their prior knowledge with others. They're also learning to write to convey meaning through planning different webs, making lists, their memories, their observations, and through their drawings. They also are provided hands-on learning and common experiences to enrich the children's discussions and their interactions prior to the investigations that they will be doing to learn about their project. They also begin to build the child's vocabulary through these projects, and then also become curious learners through asking questions, using books and other resources to find those answers.
During phase 2 of the project approach, students really get the most experience going on field experiences, also having guest visitors come in and talk. Really during this time, they're getting a lot of confidence in asking questions. Also, observational skills through sketching, writing, photography, and videotaping during our field experiences. We're also working on measurement and counting skills while gathering that information, and even communication skills through expressing and listening and even arguing sometimes. Opportunities also to experiment with concepts, investigate new ideas, and explore artifacts. And they're also gaining knowledge from field site experiences and expert visitors. And we also actually have a lot of literacy practice through project-related books, bookmaking, and shared interactive reading and writing opportunities. Also in phase 2, we work on representation. So this is when students take what they've actually learned already and pretty much represent it in their own way. So you'll see a lot of pictures in this slideshow. My class was actually doing the pizza study, and a lot of them chose different things that they learned that they wanted to represent. So they were practicing confidence in using new mediums, materials, and tools to construct. Also skills in depicting their thoughts and representing knowledge through drawings, writing, and even role play. Also lots of problem-solving skills when having to think of how they were going to recreate these. And even just a deeper understanding of their world and experiences, and social skills through a lot of dramatic play and group conversations.
So the third phase of the project, after students have built background knowledge in a topic in phase 1, in phase 2, they've come up with questions they really want to investigate. Phase 3, it's time to share their learning with others. So they're coming up with ways to show what they've learned in different ways, what's important to them. So the teacher's role in that is just to guide those learners, to help them make a plan for how they want to represent their learning, support students as they get their materials ready, and also put together a display for those that are coming to see what the students have learned. Which is another part of phase 3. They're inviting others in to teach others what they've learned through the project. And so overall, as a teacher, I think I've seen more growth in my kids implementing the project approach and all of those lifelong skills that we're really cultivating. So when we ask why use the project approach in the preschool classroom, it really is engaging all learners at the level that they're ready to engage with. And they're building those skills of being collaborative. They're working with classmates to create representations. They're reflective. They're thinking about what they've learned and thinking about how to show that to other people. They're flexible as they're investigating a topic and they're asking questions and finding out that that way didn't get the answer they wanted. They have to find another way to answer that question. They're also developing curiosity, learning about a new topic, learning new ways to investigate that topic, and they're also developing persistence, which we all know is one of the most important lifelong skills as they grow. And so the project approach really has been a very effective tool to be using in our classroom. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
Questions? Wonderful.
Thank you.
Actually, I just have one question. Did I see a picture there that you guys actually went down to the pizza shop?
Yes, yes, that was my class.
Did you really take all the kids down there?
Yeah, we took, excuse me. We took about, I think it was 30 kids at a time. So we took our morning class, it was mine and another teacher's class. We went down. So it's about 30 kids probably. And then we took a second trip in the afternoon with our other class, which was another about 30 kids.
Because let's be clear, you're talking kids how old?
Three and four at that time, yes.
3 or 4 years old. And
Yes.
they buy these really hot ovens.
Yes, yep.
And they're hot.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
I've slung a few pizzas in there. Well, that's really neat. And kudos to the business for opening their doors.
Yes.
It was Great Plains, right? That did
Yes,
that?
that's right.
Well, that's really a great experience for those kids. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm not going to let you leave without a question. As you reflect on your work with it this year and you look to build, because I know you're always reflecting yourself and looking to build, what are some things that you look to maybe enhance or change or refine as you continue to utilize the project approach for next year?
Ooh, which one? Do you have any good ones off the top of your head?
I do have one thing that, as a teacher, that the project approach has made more visible to me is providing those hands-on learning opportunities. So we're investigating topics the kids can touch. They can go to Great Plains and see, taking a trip down to Riemann Music, just all of those things that make it more real. They're asking better questions. They're learning how to be a lifelong learner through all of those experiences. So as a teacher, one thing I really want to do better at is directing their investigations to things I know that they can touch, feel, see, all of those things.
Yeah, I think I'd also kind of go along with that, just helping students think of questions that might be more outside of the box. So, like thinking of the pizza project, like the first questions we had were, what goes on a pizza? I'm like, well, we can get better questions than that. So kind of give them the confidence in building that to ask those deeper questions. When they do learn something, well, what's the next question we can ask from there? So just kind of continuing their thinking and just keeping it going, really.
Great. Thank you.
What opportunities are being provided then to communicate that up to the elementary schools? Are they aware of, have you had the opportunity to meet with them and let them know where these children are coming from? Or will that happen here in the spring, that you'll get that opportunity to share with them?
Well, we do have transition meetings with groups of students. We don't have a formalized plan of how we'll communicate what we've been doing this year. That is something that we'll continue to refine. We've been working through the project approach for some time at Northwood. It's part of the creative curriculum. We felt that it was time for us to dive deeper and get more formalized training. And so that's really what this last summer was about. I think that there continues to be conversation at the building level of how we can make sure that we're supporting our learners' lifelong learning skills, and that's really our focus. It's not so much the topic of pizza, although it's fun for kids to engage with that topic. Right now, there's a lot of music and paint going on in the class at our school. it's really those dispositions that we're trying to facilitate, that idea that we want them to maintain their curiosity, their flexibility, their persistence, their reflectiveness, and their collaboration. Those are the skills we're really working to build and maintain.
And if you'd like, I do have a sample of one of the representations that our students made for the parents came to visit. So if you'd like to see that, I'm really willing to share that with you guys. I see you shaking heads, so
Sure.
I think that is okay.
And I guess with that too, we're still working on their objectives and the learning standards. So all of that is embedded within those projects. So they're still working on the writing and the math skills and the science and with that. So I think that follows them to that next setting, to the kindergarten and on to the elementaries, because those are those fundamental, those base skills that they're going to need to go on.
Well, and I'm reflecting, all of you were a part of the professional learning community that the teaching and learning committee got to witness, and you were doing something with pizza, and I got to be honest, I'm trying to remember the specific skill, but you were breaking it down to the a very minute detail, I'll call it that, for lack of a better way to, and I remember it was about pizza. Yes, you were, yeah. So I know that you're really breaking down those standards to identify specifically what,
that we're working on, and using that to gain those skills.
So this here is actually, so there's a tool at Great Plains called the Doctor. And basically the Doctor is this fancy tool that when they put the dough out, before they bake it, they put holes, pretty much it puts holes in the pizza, and then it keeps it from having the air bubbles while it's baking. So this student, he actually said he wanted to teach his family about the Doctor. So he actually did a quick little journal entry where he drew a picture down here, wrote about it, and then he had to do another drawing to decide what types of shapes he was going to need, what material he might need for it. And so they had to go on a shopping experience in our classroom here to find the materials that they would use to represent the Doctor. So this is what he ended up finishing with here. It has a picture at the top, and then also his finished Doctor. So I can just pass it around. You guys can take a look at it real quick.
Looks like a good model.
Any other questions? Great, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Move on to the next item tonight, committee reports. Updates from what was provided? Yeah.
I want to talk about the Relic Committee a little bit. We've been a little bit busy behind the scenes. And when I say we, I mean President Deerdorf and I have a meeting this Thursday with one party who has expressed interest, as the board knows, in purchase of the Crawford and the old maintenance building, both. So we'll be meeting with that individual and that organization this Thursday about their plans for those two buildings and how that puts itself together. You'll notice, and I did have one question already from Director Esposette relative to the gifts that will be approved by the board later on, which appear on Exhibit C2. And there are some significant gifts to the district from Edwards School. The old Edwards building was put up for sale or for interested parties in November. We had about 5 groups that actually came in and asked Jerry for tours of that particular building for possible use. They were mostly service organizations at that time. I think what they found out is that that building really wasn't of any use to them. So we were at a point where one other group who did express interest was the Old Edwards Neighborhood Association. We met, and I know Director Deerdorf met with them at least 3 times, I believe, and I met with them twice, having discussions about the future of that particular piece of property, and it is 6 acres. They were most interested in trying to preserve those 6 acres for a pocket park within their particular neighborhood. So the result of all of this really has been a great cooperation, I think, between the neighborhood, the district, and also the city. And the idea, as Jerry actually has informed our facilities committee, has come through and taking a look at the demolition of that particular building. The city said they would accept it as a park if it was clean and green. That demolition cost varies up to about $450,000, but we're hoping that it's going to be considerably less than that. The Old Edwards Neighborhood Association actually started fundraising for the idea of helping the district cut down and actually help with the cost of the demolition of that particular property. So these donations that are coming into the district for the demolition of that building would be tax-exempt gifts to the district. We will use that to defray the cost of the demolition, and then in the long run, once that property is clean and green, our intent is to sell it to the city, because we can't give property away, we can't give money away. We're a public entity ourselves, but we can sell it, and we're going to sell that property for $1 to the city for a pocket park when all of this is done. So the Old Edwards Neighborhood Association is in that process of fundraising, actually to help us defray the cost of the demolition, so that that will become a pocket park for that particular neighborhood in the future.
And to provide some assurity to the neighbors there and anyone else wants to contribute, we thought it'd be helpful. I mean, the board is in agreement, but have a proclamation to that extent. So again, we're just agreeing that we're going to support this. Let me know otherwise. It says, whereas the Old Edwards property at 3622 Woodland Street, Ames, Iowa, is owned by the Ames Community School District, and whereas the building is vacant since a new school was built at 820 Miller Avenue, Ames, Iowa, and the district no longer has use for the property, and whereas the district and the Ames Community School Board sought proposals from any and all parties interested in the property, and whereas the Edwards Neighborhood Association expressed its desire to see the site turned over to the City of Ames to be developed into a park, and whereas the Edwards Neighborhood Association is raising funds to offset the costs the district would incur to demolish the building, therefore, the Ames Community School Board hereby makes this non-binding proclamation that the board intends to demolish the old Edwards building and give the site to the City of Ames to be used as a park. So is there any disagreement to that proclamation? Otherwise, I'll sign tonight.
I do disagree.
Okay.
Well, I love the idea. I think it's a fabulous idea. I believe our property should be auctioned to the highest bidder. I don't think that we have any business deciding who gets to benefit from the properties, that there should be equal and open opportunity for anyone and everyone to bid on the properties.
So my concern, Bill, I guess, is we've gone through the process for the last 2 years of trying to find a willing buyer and trying to understand the community impact. I'd love to try to, I feel we have made it available, but I think our ultimate goal is to transition this property, and I just don't see another option, I guess, at this point. So I'm in favor of it.
Yeah.
How about other board members?
I'm not going to talk about the merits of this. I would just say that, was this on the agenda as an action item, or?
No. So
No.
we're not. It's not a vote. It's more of a procedural thing to bring it forward through consent.
You
through
said they're
consensus.
non-binding, didn't it?
Correct.
Non-binding proclamation.
It's really
in the wording of that.
we agreed as a board. We're moving this forward. It's just more of providing some assurity to the people donating. We've told the neighborhood we're doing it. It's just more of providing notice to the city more than anything else that this is our intent.
Okay. Is this something that we can, because I don't know, I can't see the rush in it. I think my point is, I think I'd like to have this noted on the agenda so that people in the community have an opportunity to provide input, and then we can vote on it. Would that be okay? Because there's no rush that we need to do this within the next 2 weeks.
No, the plan was they're fundraising through the spring.
Right.
The hope would be they'd be done in the summer. So, no, Louis, I think that'd be fine. If we want to table this and bring it back for a vote, we can do it that way as well.
What happens to any funds raised if we do go a different route? Are these are just earmarked for this, so if they are raised for specific to the demolition to defray costs, so this can be turned over to the city, would these funds be returned if we decide that we are not turning this over to the city? Do we know the answer to this?
Yeah, maybe Chris can talk through the process.
I guess I don't want to, point of parliamentary procedure here. This isn't a motion, okay? There's no motion on the floor. This is under committee reports. Rather than spending time and getting into the merits of this, I'd really feel that we should put this on the agenda for next time, consider it as an action item, and move forward with our agenda.
But I'd like to have Chris at least talk about what the process is for people making donations, because they are coming in now. So that notice would be helpful.
That's valuable to the Relic Committee, and that's your committee, and I'm fine with that. I'd like to know the answers, what we're going forward as part of the committee.
So the proclamation was put together to answer that exact question, what happens if people donate, because I didn't realize the neighborhood was going to start bringing us checks in quite as soon as they did. We ended up with the $10,000 check in our office last week, and it made me a little nervous. So we came up with the idea of the proclamation to kind of get the idea out there that this was where we were going. If it gets a little tricky depending how long it would be that decision wouldn't get made. If we put these on as, first of all, if they donated as a tax deduction, just like it would be to a 501c3, we're a 509A government with all the same charitable donation status. So any donations to the districts are tax deductible on your taxes. The process should be that it would be the donations would come to the business office. We would make sure that those donations are deposited into the PEPAL fund correctly. That information then goes to Kim, Dr. Taylor's secretary, so that she can get it on the gifts to the board, and the board can recognize those at a board meeting. And then we would send a letter recognizing their gift that they can then use that for their taxes. So where it would get tricky is if we start acknowledging these and giving them the letter, and then at some point in the future, the board made a different decision, and we had to give the money back, we're going to have to worry about that letter, I think, from giving somebody a letter that they made a large tax donation to the district. So I asked several questions, right, Mr. Deerdorf, when this has happened. Is there any chance we're not tearing the building down? I thought from the discussions from the facility committee that was no. Is there any chance that depending on how much money they made, that wouldn't happen, and any chance that money would be given back to the individuals because we wouldn't be doing that action? And those answers were all no. So, but like I said, I was caught off guard. I thought it was going to be a while before the neighborhood started actually collecting money, and they're really energetic about this and started bringing me money last week.
So this being the case, our committee will just bring this back as an action item next time for further discussion. Other topics?
We've got a facilities meeting tomorrow at noon, and I think we're 11:30 a meeting, and Jerry, a PEPAL committee meeting next Tuesday morning, maybe 7 o'clock. Stay tuned. Okay, it won't be next Tuesday at 7. The date and time to be named later.
To be determined, right? Okay.
Teaching and Learning Committee is meeting Friday the 24th at 1. Slated as 1 to 3 here. I'm not sure which conference room we'll be in, but we will be in one of the conference rooms here in this building. That'll be determined later. Agenda will be announced at least a few days prior, but the exact agenda is not detailed at this time.
And then lastly, under the legislative liaison, as we speak, the House is debating, or not debating, well, yeah, they were going to start the committee hearing on serious changes to the negotiating opportunities for collective bargaining in the state, which will greatly affect this school district as well as every other school district in the state. Stay tuned. We kind of know, and Dr. Taylor's going to talk a little bit more about how that's going to direct us specifically. But so it's not too late to let your legislators know that can have some serious consequences for our school district. Secondly, and I'd like to say that we have 2 other items that we're going to be spending some time over the next month talking to the community, going to PTO boards and trying to talk to as many parents in the district as possible about two other items. One is the penny sales tax that for schools that supports our facilities and also technology. That has been a great benefit to the Ames School District for over the past several years, as we can see in our one-to-one technology program with our computers, but most definitely with the beautiful elementary schools we now have all online. But secondly, also the other issue that we're going to ask parents to contact legislators about is the Smart Balance test going forward with that. Our school district has spent a lot of time and effort. Dr. Ross has been very much pointed that out at our last meeting, that it would be a real shame to see a lot of that effort go to waste. So we would like to suggest to, again, encourage our parents, and we'll be getting more information out about that. And hopefully we can encourage our legislators to do the right thing for our education in the next few months.
Anything else to discuss?
I think while you're on Smarter Balance, I think at our last meeting, we talked about the fact that we had 3 of our buildings participate in a pilot in association with the Iowa Department of Education. I think Carl, who just left, did the research on that, I believe, and sent that list of schools out. There were 2 phases of that, but it involved 254 schools in Iowa that participated in that. So you can see the extent of the work on the Department of Ed in pushing the Smarter Balanced assessment. And for that one, for the legislature at this time to pretty much put it on the shelf and not be talking about it. There's a lot of time and effort by a lot of people involved in that one. And we, as a school district, still feel it's exactly what we need when it comes to assessment. We can get rid of a lot of other assessments that we have, and Smarter Balance will fit better with what we're trying to accomplish, especially with the Common Core and with our essential standards. So that help would be appreciated.
All right, moving on to our next item tonight, policies to announce. Tim.
Yeah, you can go through most of those on the list, and there's not really a lot of changes. A couple of them didn't have any changes. The big one that is changed, this came up in discussion months and months ago, and with my downtime, it did not get presented as timely as I would have liked. I would have liked to have seen this come forward a while ago, but at the last policy meeting, we finally went through the revisions to present the public participation at board meetings, some changes to that. This is mainly my writing. Since Rodney didn't make it tonight, I hadn't shared with him the exact writing, and we haven't discussed it. He was unable to attend the last policy meeting. If you look at that discussion items on the agenda paragraph, what I'm proposing is that during discussion items, we have a lot of resident experts in this town. We have people that can give us good feedback. We have it as one of our goals that we want feedback from our community. I believe that opening this up, we can also get more respectful feedback from our community if we have them have the opportunity on discussion items to come up to the table at their will. They don't have to sign up ahead of time. They show up at the meeting. They listen to the presentation by our staff, faculty. They listen to our discussion. They have comments to make. They can come up and make their comments, and it's an informed comment. Sometimes we have people come up to the public forum to address things that are on our agenda, and they come up. We all know that it's happened that we have people come up at public forum and chastise us for things that we're actually going to do later that night, and they're upset, and they're rightfully upset. I believe this is a way to actually have communication with our parents, and so that addition in there gives people the opportunity to come to the mic during our discussion items. I believe it would be a step forward. In order to do that, the one thing that we noted during the policy committee meeting is that we don't actually dictate where the public forum is. in our meetings. I would personally prefer if it gets moved. I would say we go through discussion items and put public forum in between discussion items and the consent agenda. Or the way I actually wrote it to begin with was that we end the meeting with public forum, so when we get to the end, we basically have items from the community, items from the board, items from the staff, and that we go with those 3 items. And so we can begin the meeting. That part is not in the policy intentionally. It wasn't before. There's nothing that says public forum has to be at the beginning of the meeting in any of our policies. I do not believe. If it's in some other one, I haven't found it yet. So that part would be left up to leadership, I guess, if they want to move public forum to another location in here. I certainly would.
So
prefer.
Tim, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's it.
So the one thing I learned fairly quickly being on the board is the distinction between, and Dr. Taylor tells me this all the time, is right now we're conducting a board meeting in public versus a public board meeting. And one of the things I hear a lot is we don't have a chance of dialogue. And I think dialogue is great. Maybe I've been naive to think it could happen at the committee level as well as it sometimes does in certain circumstances. One of the things Elisa and I were talking to the administration about was, would there be an opportunity to actually have a dialogue? Because even in this proposal, it's more of just receiving information and then we don't have a dialogue. One thing we're thinking about is, could we possibly have a quarterly meeting where, whether it's board members, whether it's board leadership with administration, to set up a time where, hey, we're going to be here at this meeting, it's going to be posted, come and we'll have a dialogue so we can address those questions, and then comments and go back and forth. That's just one thought we had. Again, I view this setting as really a board meeting in public. And talking with representatives from the Iowa School Boards Association, they highly encouraged to go with this format, and that's probably why it was like that. One of the things that I've witnessed over time is I've been very flexible in the allowance of the public forum. Board policy states that it's supposed to be limited to 3 minutes. Also, it's supposed to be one presenter. These things have dragged out. I mean, in the past, when I was first on the board, we had a timer, and it was, as soon as it was off, you're done. And I feel that, as you mentioned, respect for the board has been a little bit strained at times. And again, we need to do our work here as a public body and be respectful of comments. But I think there can be also a way to have dialogue in other settings. And we're, again, going to have, we don't have to have a public forum, period. It's not a requirement, but we want to have that. So again, I'm not trying to squash comments. I just think that if you were to put a public forum at the end of each discussion item, or whether it's at the end, I don't see a lot of it different than what the public is asking for, to have a dialogue. So I guess I'd be more in favor of figuring out how can we have a dialogue, whether it's monthly if we need to do that, or quarterly, to provide that feedback. Just my thoughts.
And I'd argue do both. I mean, in this case, I'd argue do both. I mean, we should be doing that. I don't know that any of us do that enough, or I don't know what all the rest of you do with the other hours for a while. Certainly any phone call or email that requested my time to meet about something, and that's an interesting thing, because those first few years that happened continuously, and there were a lot of those meetings, and that hasn't, I would say most of those meetings that have occurred in the last year have been because we've solicited it. And so we hear that we're not being responsive, but I don't think I've had a request to meet someone outside, to meet with a parent, where I know the first 2 years it was pretty continuous. It was pretty continuous that somebody asked and said, I have a concern, can you meet me at such and such coffee shop, and I want to discuss it. And took every one of those meetings. We should be doing more of that. If it came to, my feeling would be, if it comes to having people get up here and give us good feedback on particular discussion items or have a public forum, there's nothing that says we have to have public forum. If it's one or the other, I'd rather have it be on the discussion items myself. But that part, you know, there's 7 of us on this board. This is the policy as being announced. There's a couple little revisions that need to happen without a doubt. And we'll be the one that will be bringing forward. And so if there's revisions, that'll be, you know, let us know, and we'll discuss it over the next 2 meetings and decide how to proceed.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yep, we've got some problems having very much discussion in this type of setting. And there are problems that don't exist with the city council. The city council makes the rules. They have home rule. They're making their ordinances. We're following Dylan's rule. It's just the opposite. We can't do anything that the legislature hasn't told us we can do. So the first problem we're going to have in an open forum is trying to get everyone to understand the limitations. Budget issues, for example. We're bound in various silos of money. How long would it take us to describe where a certain piece of money has to be spent and the reason we can have carpet in here and not hire another half-time teacher? I mean, those are things that we're going to consume an incredible amount of time. The second problem we have that doesn't exist at the city level is that we have very tight confidentiality rules. Tonight, we heard in the public forum, people want us to discuss employees and students. Well, we can't do it. Those employees and students would have to come to us and sign a release to let us talk about them. We can't talk about them. So how long does it take us in this format to get people to understand that what they're asking for, we can't do? That confidentiality is going to create a great deal of difficulty in exchange. So I don't know what the answer is, but to have open dialogue like the city council looks to me like an insurmountable problem. I don't know, there's people in here that have come to my office and talked to me. There's people in here that have called me on the phone. I've answered, I think, every single email I've gotten since 2009. I'm tired of hearing about not being transparent. I've answered every question that's been posed. I think other board members do that too, but I don't know how we do that during this particular type of format. So that's the problem I would have, Director Rasmussen, with putting public forum at the end of each discussion item. Now, it might be nice to move the public forum clear to the end of the meeting so that everyone understands what we're working on presently. Now, of course, the reason we don't do that is because everybody wants to bump and run. I appreciate all of you that are still here, but if you notice, there's only half the population there was earlier. They want to come in and yell and run instead of find out everything that we're working on. So I don't know if moving to the end of the meeting works, or if that's viewed merely as trying to discourage any public comment. So I don't have a great answer, except I think this is a bad forum for exchange.
No, go ahead.
So I think as I'm listening to this and as I've been thinking a lot about what I've heard from a lot of you, it's a piece of education. We have to educate you on the ways that we have to do our business, and I appreciate that, and you have to educate us on your experiences within the school district. I think I heard or I read one of the comments someone said on the petition was, you only know the experiences of your child and the experiences of your children's friend. That bothers me because I do try to make myself available so I can learn about more of the experiences within the school district. I very much value that. One of the things that, as we talked about this possibility of this forum type thing, and understanding we are bound by Dylan's rule, so we can't all just come and have a discussion at this if we had an open forum. But one of the things that drives me to want to do that, whether it's the leadership between Luke and I and some of our administrative staff is to educate the public on some of the things that are happening, and then to allow you to educate us on your experiences within the district. That's what I value about that. We cannot, like Bill said, we cannot have that opportunity at our meetings. We are limited to what we do. So while I value and want to figure out a way that we can provide the opportunity for public forum at our meetings, I also want us to continue to think about ways that we can provide that education to take place 2 ways.
My first question when I got their packet Thursday came to mind the discussion, and I wanted a clarification that you wanted to put the ability for people to, Tim, to discuss an item along when we're considering it on the agenda. And that was your intent, correct?
During discussion items.
Right. So there would
Certainly
be a
just during
public
discussion items,
forum
not during
at the beginning, and then there would be, again, an opportunity for people to discuss that particular item. I just want to clarify that that was your intent, correct?
Public forum is not dictated as being at the beginning of the meeting, and
Right.
that would be leadership's decision, since it's not in this policy. If people want it in the policy, I'll gladly put it wherever people want it, but that's not in the policy at this time, so it wouldn't have to be at the public forum at the beginning, like you just stated, but it would be somewhere.
Yeah. So what I was getting at, and when I saw this, and shame on me, I'll have to say this, that I haven't read all of the policies in the district since I joined the board, because one jumped out at me here related to policy. Our current policy reads that the board may discuss an item and ask questions for clarification of the person during the public forum, but will not act, of course, during that meeting on any new ideas that are presented at the public forum to take action. The board may request public forum information be researched by the district's administration staff, and that issue be placed on the agenda in future meetings. So currently, without making any changes, we can have a back and forth discussion during our current forums and under our current policy. So now that I know that, thank you for bringing that to my attention. One of the suggestions that I'm going to have for us when we actually bring this up, and I'll share these with you, Tim, so that you and we can incorporate them, is to, rather than having it during the agenda item, because I think that would be cumbersome in a lot of ways, but with the understanding that we can ask questions back and forth with people that come to us during the public forum of it, and also include and make it very clear that it's in relation to agenda items and future items. Because that's one thing that our policy states real clearly, that they can come to the public forum and talk about anything. And it doesn't matter what the topic is. But when it's specifically related to a agenda item, I think we just need to clarify that a little bit more in our current policy. Bill, I'm not so concerned about us taking time to educate the public on what we can or cannot do, because there's some things we can and can't do. But I think that's an opportunity for us to be transparent, to educate our parents and the community on what roles we all play in the school district, and what limitations we have, and when some of those limitations are put on us by the state legislature by chance, then we all need to know that, so that we can let the people that influence and make those decisions in Des Moines can make the appropriate changes when need be.
So Louis, I need to make one point, and I'll have Dr. Taylor go through this, but we have to be very careful with open meetings law that we're not having a dialogue and coming to consensus when we don't post something. So the notion of having any kind of discussion and a dialogue, I don't think we're allowed to do. So I'm going to have Dr. Taylor talk about what that looks like, just so we're aware.
The discussion that would take place cannot appear to be one in which you're reaching a decision. but it's one that you are coming to the conclusion that the board as a whole needs to have a discussion relative to that particular topic. And I don't know if that's very clear, but that it's a real fine line in the law because it's not on the agenda. There can't be discussions that appear to be as though you are making a decision. And that's the real key point here.
Correct. What I'm just saying is, let's say, for
Clarification,
example,
yes.
Yeah,
That's
and then
fine.
that's what the current policy states. So let's say, hypothetically, we have tonight the motion on our calendar, regarding the calendar, real exciting issue. It is to me. I'm really excited when I can see that calendar right away and plug it in, right? One of the vacations is going to be when, winter break's going to be. So if somebody comes up and speaks to us about that and has some suggestions or whatever, we can just ask for, ask questions of them to clarify what they're saying, not necessarily debate it or discuss it later on in the agenda. Then when we're considering the action, that's where we have our discussion amongst ourselves in that portion of the meeting. But I don't think clarifying any questions with, people coming from the community would violate the open records portion of the meeting, because we're not in the state of debating it at that point. We haven't taken it. There's no motion on the table yet. So that doesn't happen until there's an actual motion to take it up and discuss it.
I'll chime in. When I read it, I kind of liked it. I would probably reverse the order. I would have, if there's a presentation, I'd have public comment, then us. I wouldn't necessarily get into a big back and forth debate. That's a little bit more of the city council way of handling it. Having it apply to discussion items and not action items, I can see that. It is fraught with some peril, though. We could be called any one of a number of things without necessarily getting an opportunity to reply or rebut that. But I think done well, this could be helpful, but it requires the community to do it well, it requires us to do it well, and it's probably as easily retracted as it is provided if it doesn't go well, if it's not useful. I do think, however, these meetings, everybody comes because they got something to say, and then we all have somewhere else to be. So I don't know that anybody wants these meetings to be long, protracted, 6-hour marathon sessions. So setting something up on a quarterly basis or every couple of months for a little bit more of the back and forth, because I think one of the conundrums we have is I know a lot, but I don't know everything. Luke knows a lot, but he doesn't know everything, and so on and so forth. And so I think part of the value of however we do this is when resources are available, whether it's Dr. Taylor, Dr. Ross, Chris, somebody who can get to the heart of the matter very quickly. And then it also probably requires some back and forth collegiality, where if we just say, you know what, we can't do that, that's sort of understood and we move on. Not that it's not our priority to do that, but it's, no, legally we can't do that. So let's not kill any more brain cells on that. So when again, when I read it, I kind of liked it. There's a little bit more back and forth, but if we grant this and if we do this, it can't be a train wreck. It can't just be terrible for everybody involved. Otherwise, it's not served its purpose. But I think sort of speaking to items as there are items in a discussion format as compared to blowing everything out there and then not hearing about it again, that would be hard as well, or that is hard. So that was my 2 cents worth. I don't know that I had a lot of value to this discussion, if only to say that, I think I could see something there, but it requires us all to play well.
Another difficulty we'll have is that after there's been a public proclamation of position, it becomes irretractable. You know, if we're going to talk frankly about this, there has been, in the last couple of months, absolute falsehoods stated during the public forum. Now, how do we cope with that if we're going to have an exchange? How do we cope with that? Now, I'm not saying it's intentional. You know, I understand how things work. I understand that people talk and people repeat what they hear and people listen to other folks that don't necessarily have the right information. If we do that in a public forum, how are we going to cope with that? I think it's a bad forum. I think what we ought to be focusing on is having the community talk to us individually and personally, and why not do it at the conclusion of a meeting once a month? Just sign up to talk to your board member. Because then you don't get in a position of having stated a position so strongly you cannot change your mind regardless of the information you receive. I think I'd be delighted to visit with people after meetings maybe once a month. I think folks may appreciate more what we're doing. Leave the public forum open, leave the public forum in the same format. But let's have more personal, interpersonal relationship where we can really actually talk with each other instead of having a dialogue where one's trying to win or the other's trying to win in public. Let's have an interpersonal relationship where we can really work towards a goal. That's an idea we might want to think about.
Dr. Taylor, from the administration standpoint, what do you find helpful? What changes, proposals do you think would work well?
Generally speaking, there's a couple things. The one that you and Elisa have been talking about, which is visiting with the PTOs, maybe a rotational thing once a month. It's going to be helpful. The other thing we're kicking around is the idea of videos. I know with this collective bargaining law, the way that it is, there's a lot of people that wonder what that's all about. And it's a sweeping change in a way that professionals, in my opinion, are being treated. But by doing a video, I think, on a 10-minute thing that I can put on the website to try and explain some of those things, it's going to be very helpful. Bill brings up a great point. The confidentiality rules that you think essentially is muzzling us is doing exactly that. It's not something we can talk about, and you can look up the Iowa Public Employee Law relative to that and see that confidentiality ranks. We can't talk about those kinds of things. There are so many silos, and another thing that Chris and I probably should do in a video is start talking about school finance so that you can understand that with the governor's teacher leadership and compensation grant, that money can only be used for the hiring of TOSAs and coaches, which the intent was to get additional money into the pockets and the hands of teachers. It can't be used for anything else. Just for TOSAs, coaches, models, and mentor teachers, and that's where we put all of those particular funds. So that's the kind of thing that I think those kinds of discussions, videos, and the public forums give us an opportunity, and our professional staff over there an opportunity to talk about some of the things that are out there that I know make people wonder what's going on. And that would be a great benefit to us.
So I think it's been a really good discussion. Tim, I think maybe we just have further dialogue and figure out how best to bring this back. We can bring it back as another discussion item again at a future date, not go to an action and then have to amend it, but maybe bring it back and next meeting or the following meeting with a new proposal for the board to discuss. You think that would work? Or what are your thoughts?
I would say I would want Rodney's input on that at a future policy meeting, and that will bring forward our policy committee proposal. And, you know, I mean, you think about this board for 3 years and all the votes we've had. if we bring this thing forward and it gets shot down 4-3, it gets shot down 4-3 and we move on, you know? We've had enough 7-0 and 6-0 votes in the 3 years here, because as far as I'm concerned, things have been pretty straightforward, and it's been right to have 6-0 and 7-0 votes on every single one of those things. People might think that that's just us rubber stamping things, but we voted to pass things forward because it was the right thing to do every single time, including some things that were brought up in public forum. So then, if you know, I can think of one 6-1 vote where I was the one vote on the other side, and there was an item 10 minutes later that was directly involved with that item. We voted it. I was on the losing side of that vote, and we had to make another decision based on that decision that had already been made. Just move forward and keep on going. If we bring this forward as policy committee recommendation and it gets shot down, well, I don't think we have to be in agreement every single time. If it loses 4-3, it loses 4-3, and the old policy is still in effect. It isn't going to hurt my feelings any. We'll rewrite it and keep right on going. If it gets approved 5-2, so be it. So I don't think we have to be in agreement every single time at this table, and I don't think it hurts us any.
So just so I understand, you don't want to bring it back?
I think I need to discuss it with Rodney. I would, we'll discuss it as full policy committee and bring it back there's a couple little revisions that need to be made, and we may scratch that whole section and bring it back to you, but we'll bring it back with a full policy committee recommendation on how to move forward and let it go where it goes.
Okay.
It's fine with me.
Hey, Tim, I had one question on FEF, construction contracts, bidding and awards. Just looks like there's been a lot of rewrite on that. Any commentary on that in terms of a bunch of new regs or just different language to speak to a lot of the same subject matter?
No, actually, but Chris will come up here. One of the things that Chris and I talked about is that the thresholds between just taking random bids and looking for quotes and actually having to have public hearings changes so regularly that I had kind of talked about wanting to have those numbers in there, and Chris talked me out of it, but I'll let Chris give you an update on some of that.
Director Esposito, as you know, last legislative session, they made major changes to the bidding laws for public construction projects. We no longer publish in the paper. We know the time frames change. They go on a website. So I sent since our current policy was up for review anyway, I sent it to legal counsel, and she reviewed it and changed the actual policy to just be the bones of what is required in law, and then changed the regs to operate how we would operate. So she's updated everything to current statute. Her recommendation was that because they review those limits annually, that you not put them actual in board policy or regs, because then you'd have to bring that board policy up for review every year. So every change that you see in there, she just says comply with current law. And then I know that I have it on my desktop what that current law is at any one time. I'm sure Jerry has it as well. So, and he and I confer then. We just had our first one that we had to do under the new bidding procedures, and so we conferred quite a bit on how to get that done.
Okay, thanks.
Would you update the board on what those thresholds are? I know the big one in my mind is 135,000, but there are a couple less than that.
I don't have those memorized, Jerry.
That's
Do you
okay.
have
I
them?
can send them to the board tomorrow, just so they know.
I know it's 135 for the big one, where we have to actually post it on to the builder trade sites, and then we also have to post it on our website as well. So we've worked with legal counsel on that. We were going to put it into, there's a facilities area, but she also suggested we have the link to the builder's site directly on our front page as well, so we're working on that.
Thanks.
All right, so really good discussion. Again, as the public has comments, please feel free to email the whole board, and then also written comments will be available until February 22nd at the superintendent's office.
Yeah, just one quick question regarding cell phones. Pretty standard language. You're not suggesting any change. Is that just a reaffirmation of what the current one is? Tim?
I'm sorry. The discussion was that it's for the most part administrators that have their cell phones and, there
So it's
really are
not
no
a change,
changes
it's-
needed. This
Okay,
is,
okay.
I mean, that's why there's no strike through, no bold on there. It's as,
Sure. My only thought was a suggestion that we could add to it. I know it's kind of crazy. I watch people all the time carrying around 2 cell phones, and I'm like, why do you have 2 cell phones? What some institutions and businesses and companies do is that rather than having their employees lug around 2 cell phones, they also, as an option, give them the ability to, get compensated for a portion of their own personal cell phone, fees or whatever, up to a certain limit. So I was just wondering if there was some way, Chris, that we could do that to, offer that as an option for people that don't have to lug around 2 phones.
Boy, I'd be really worried about
Well, and
requests for
that's why I'm asking
information.
Chris.
Because everything that's on that person's cell phone could become subject to disclosure under Freedom of Information
Well,
Act.
it's optional. I mean, if somebody doesn't want to do it, they don't have to do it, but some people do it, so.
I'd love to be one of the persons that wouldn't have to carry around 2 cell phones, and I think when cell phones were cell phones, that probably you could do that arrangement. I think when cell phones first came out, after they got to the unlimited plans, there was a whole thing when the plans were limited, you had to prove what minutes you were using, blah, blah, blah. The problem is that our cell phones, one, work as hotspots in case our internet goes out, so that's one reason we need our district phones. The other is I don't put my district email on my personal phone. I use my district phone for district email. And I don't want my personal email and my district email in any way crossing over so that my personal email would be subject to a FOIA request when it has nothing to do with the district business.
Okay.
I don't know of an administrator that doesn't have 2 cell phones, just for that particular reason, so.
That's
We-
fine. I just
we'll find
wanted
out what their
to throw
feelings
out that
are.
option for you there, Tim.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the consent. I'll take a motion.
Move consent.
Second?
Moved by Rosser, second by Franson. Discussion, Dr. Kidder.
Got minutes from the regular meeting from January 30, 2017. You'll notice on the personnel report there are 7 requests for voluntary early retirement, 2 from teachers, including Kim Burnett, who's a health teacher at Ames High. She served in that role for the past 24 years, and Kim Seversky, who's a special needs teacher at Mitchell School, after 30 years of service to the district. Rita Parrish, who has been our district production coordinator here at central office, is also requesting voluntary early retirement after 27 years in the district. Bev Crumpton, a media technologist at Edwards School, after 21 years. 2 educational assistants. Betty Hollander is an educational assistant at Ames High after 17 years, and Susanna Nutter, who is also an EA at Ames High after 26 years of service. Finally, Diane Martin, as a health associate, is also asking for voluntary early retirement after 11 years, and we thank them for their service. We do have a set of gifts to the district, and Chris, would it be beneficial for us not to accept the gifts from the Edwards Neighborhood Association at this time? I guess is my question. While you're thinking about that for a second, we do have a cash in the amount of $510 from the Science Center of Iowa for 3 teachers at Edwards to attend the STEM conference, 14 books and DVDs from Dana Specker to Edwards School for Mrs. Neibauer's 3rd grade classroom, and several boxes of food and bags of clothing from the Cornerstone Church to Ames Middle School. Chris, should we take those off for this evening?
Might be best to wait, if you're going to act on the proclamation at the next board meeting, that might be best to do that.
That was kind of my opinion, so.
So moved to delete that from the consent items.
And
We also have a contract with Life Touch for the high school senior class panoramic photograph, and also continuous open enrollment applications. Ms. Chris?
And then President Deardorff, I apologize, you've got cheap help tonight doing the minutes, and I didn't get back to my seat before the motion and the second got made.
So it was moved by Ross, or second by Franson. If we get a second on the
I'll second the amendment to remove the gifts to the district for the Edwards School
You need to
demolition.
make the amendment.
What's that?
You can't amend your own
Well,
motion.
No, but, it was,
Yeah, Ross or suggested.
As I said, I move to amend the motion
Okay.
to
Second.
remove the Edwards demolition gifts to the district at this time.
Second.
Okay, moved by Esposito, second by Rasmussen. Any discussion on the amendment? Proceed to vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion is amended. Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 7-0.
Good catch.
Did you get all that, Chris?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, item 12.
I move the board approve the 2017-18 and 2018-19 school calendars as presented.
Second.
Moved by Franson, second by Rasmussen. Discussion.
My normal comment that this is another example of the loss of local control. So when you're talking to your legislators about anything else you might be calling, tell them that we ought to be able to set our own calendar without interference from them, so that high school kids can sell beer at Okoboji and the state fair.
Heary.
Just for further editorialize that, we have to start, our start date is August 23rd. We can't start before that. So that in essence sets the ending date, and that's what Director Talbot is referring to. That has been a proclamation that came down last year, which set that starting date for us. We no longer can start a little bit sooner than that to try and get our semester exams done by winter break. We have to start on the 23rd, and it will become a little bit more difficult when the 23rd falls on a Saturday, because then we won't be able to start until the 25th or later.
That brings up a question. I mean, because we've discussed the possibility of you bringing us information towards going to a year-round calendar at some point. Is the state mandated that that's just not a choice in Iowa now, or are there still programs that are?
There are still programs, and as a matter of fact, my wife is a principal of a year-round school, and she has to submit that every year as a special calendar, and it has to be approved from the Iowa Department of Education. Now, I'm not certain how many year-round schools there are in the state, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 40. So they have a special calendar that has to get special permission in order to run that year-round.
The same as what we used to do.
Yes.
They approve those probably because they take state fair week off. And
that's exactly right. If you actually take a look at the calendar, they come back in the middle of July, sometime usually around the 23rd or 24th. They're on 6 weeks on and 2 weeks off, 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and 6 weeks off during the summer before they start again. One of the benefits of the year-round calendar, and especially that model, is that during those 2 weeks off, they sometimes will run a week worth of project-based learning or intercession, or in other cases they'll run a week where parents at $5 an hour can have their son or daughter who may be struggling in reading or math come up and get some extra help from teachers that are available during that time. So it's not a bad system. The biggest conflict comes into parents and summer activities for kids, because kids are a lot more active, I think, during the summers.
Any other discussion? Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 6-0. Item 13.
move the board approve the new open enrollment applications as presented.
Second.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Rosser. Discussion. Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 6-0. Item 14.
I move the board approve the notice of public hearing, March 27th, 2017, plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost of the Ames Middle School Stadium Improvements Project.
Second.
Moved by Rosser, second by Franson. Discussion. Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 6-0. Item 15.
I'm getting there. I move the board approve change order number 11 to the contract with HPC LLC for the Fellows Project in the amount of $6,619.
Second.
Moved by Esposito, second by Talbot. Discussion.
Jerry, I assume that since our next item is giving them final acceptance of the work, that this really cleans up and mops up the Fellows? Thank you.
Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 6-0. Item 16.
Move the board approve final acceptance of the work for the Fellows General Construction Contract completed by HPC LLC on the Fellows Elementary School project.
Second.
Moved by Esposito, second by Talbot. Discussion. I would just like to say, it's wonderful every time we can approve these to finally take the buildings over. It's a great testament to our community to support public education at our building level, so always happy to approve these. Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 6-0. And 17.
I move the board approve a community sale on Saturday, March 4th, 2017, of interior building items at the old Edwards Elementary School building located at 3622 Woodland Street.
Second.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Franson. Discussion.
Jerry, are we using the same firm to help us out with that yard sale or garage sale, whatever we're calling it?
Yes, I've engaged Don Seymour with FBH Associates who are pretty successful with them so far at Fellows. And that disposal on that one, so I think it's a good thing to move forward with them.
Okay, great. Yeah, we made we did turned out pretty well, and I think people were pretty satisfied with the things they were able to take home.
Yep. And this will be a little bit more than just a community sale. Everything is up for the taking. Doors, windows, toilets, bricks. You want it, bring your hammer and wheelbarrow and you can have it.
Okay, so a little more extensive than what the Fellows was.
It's a pre-demolition sale, so again, it's going to be similar to what we had last time at Fellows. Any interested party needs to bring your own resources to be able to remove anything that's sold from the building.
And how are we publicizing that to the community?
As required, we need to put it in the newspaper 2 weeks consecutive, or twice in a consecutive week, and in accordance with the policy. So we'll do that.
And we'll go into the details of, like you just said, bring your truck.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Great.
Jerry, on that note for demolition, has there been any consensus made with the city regarding what's going to stay at Edwards and what won't be?
Yes, I met with Keith Abraham, and we reviewed specifically the parking lots and a lot of the sidewalks, and so we got that narrowed down, and we're going to be able to leave some of that concrete. The two parking lots, one on the east side and the one on the north side, as well as the bus drop-off area on the north side, and then there's a parent drop-off on the east side. So kind of from those sidewalks in, we'll be able to remove that, including the building and then the blacktop surface area, the playground area. And we also picked up, there's a couple pieces of concrete that need some patching, so that'll give us clean and green.
And the playground equipment that's there, is there still playground equipment?
Yeah,
that's
the
there?
playground equipment will remain, yes.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 6-0. Items from the board.
Well, I don't take this forum very often to talk about stuff that's not directly on the agenda, but I'm feeling called to talk a little bit about the budget that we're dealing with, particularly in the light of a lot of community sentiment around how we prioritize our money. So a couple of things. Not to beat a dead horse, but I don't know that we have local control. I think as much as anything, we maybe have some local ability to prioritize. But there's a lot of things outside of our control that we simply don't have. And so I view our role in this as one of evaluating program and proportion. I can't imagine Ames without band. Can't imagine it. Can't imagine Ames without a lot of things. So we're going to be forced to weigh those program items versus proportion, or in other words, class sizes, student-teacher ratios, those sorts of things. That's just the business we're in. It's the business every school district is in, and it's how it's going to get harder and tighter. So I don't know that I have a lot of dispute about adding central office staff, but it really is going to come at the expense of what happens in our classroom buildings, because the legislature doesn't permit us to use other dollars to be able to do those things. So I know Dr. Taylor, I read some account that he got interviewed by the Ames Trib or by KSI or something like that. And I mean, the mantra every year is let's keep things away from the kids at the classroom. And that's true. Well, that means we skinny down our central office staff, but that doesn't become good enough. We don't have enough redundancy or duplication, or that means we don't have this or we don't have that. And in my mind, I'm drawing a relationship between the infrastructure we have as a district being impactful for our kids and the programming as much as, or in a very direct way, just as much as the teachers are too. So I'm not on the budget committee. I'll be a full participant in all of that, but I don't want people to think that, oh, you know, nothing's going to be impacted in our school district or in our buildings, because that's just simply, that won't be the case. So prepare for something to happen, and let's figure out the best way that we can make that happen between program and proportion, because it's going to be hard, and we need as many good thinkers as we can.
Yep. And Director Talbot and I went through that in 2010 when I took over. We cut $3.5 million out of our budget in order to remain solvent. And at that time, when I took over as superintendent, I also had been serving in the district for 17 years as the HR person. Thought I could handle both of them. I still do. That being said, the board is going to have to make some priorities at this point. With 1.11% increase, that's $73 per student. It's about $300,000 of new money coming into the district, and on an average year, we're going to take or need about $900,000 in new money to stay afloat. We'll keep them away from kids. We want to save the programs that make Ames special. And Mike mentioned one. I'm going to mention orchestra as another one. I mentioned the fine arts programs. I'm going to mention all of the great things that we have for kids to do after school with not just athletics, but co-curricular activities. Those are the things that provide the greatest bang for our buck, and the things that keep, right now, almost 95% of our high school students involved in something outside of the classroom. It's a great benefit to them. We'll make the best decisions. I'm getting requests from building principals, for social workers, for nurses, for health associates, for additional educational assistants, human resources director. So it is a matter of priorities, and we'll give the board some choices to work with as we begin to move forward. But it's still keeping it as far away from kids as we can. I can't guarantee much about class sizes right at this point, but we'll try and protect the programs.
We're going to work really hard. I'd like to add to that. Thanks for bringing it up. It's going to be a challenge because we're going to have to make some cuts this year, and hopefully we can do what's best. We're definitely going to do what we feel is best for the district and for our students. But there are additional things that the legislature is going to be considering. The supplemental funding is just first thing that they're going at. And like I mentioned earlier, the penny sales tax, funding for testing, I mean, a number of other education-related issues are going to be before the legislative session is over. So keep your ears open. We'll get back to you on that. I have two other things that I'd like to bring up tonight. One being, and one came up during the meeting, and I hope, Dr. Taylor, I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe what we should do at either the next meeting, and March might be too late because we're going to be getting into the budget too much, but doing a 10, 15-minute school funding 101 presentation that, so that, our parents and the community has a better understanding. Don't have to get into all the gory details like we have to, but to help people understand the silos that we talk about, and how we can spend money in certain ways and why we can't spend money in other ways. I think a basic explanation of that at the beginning of one of our next meetings would be great. Secondly, and I shared with you guys just now, I know, and I know other administrators and board members received great response from from students, parents, and others in the community regarding the poster that that we put out in all the schools and on our website, communicating to our students that, dear students, we're glad you're here, regardless of your religion, religious beliefs, or nationality. You belong here, and we are Ames schools. I've gotten great, very warm and encouraging feedback regarding that. In looking at also our policies and procedures, I kind of noticed something about that was a little bit lacking. So what I've drafted up myself, and I'm not going to take any credit for this, there are other school districts around the country that are doing a similar thing. But I'd like to have the board consider a resolution at either for safe school environment and protect our students and their families and their rights, and to have this considered either on the February 27th meeting or our March 27th meeting, whichever agenda works out best. But this again would be a resolution that affirming its commitment to a safe and supportive school environment for all students, regardless of their citizen status or their immigration status. I won't go into the whereases and resolves right now. We'll share that with you in the future. Thank you.
Let me just jump in, just to finish my thought. One thing we kind of unceremoniously went through was improving new open enrollments to the district. We've got 27 people wanting to enroll their kids in this district next year, just new open enrollee attendees, so that I'm finding some encouragement with that. It certainly helps on the budget side and that too. And I don't know if that's how that compares to last year at this time, and if there are ebbs and flows and cycles of that, but that's significant.
Well, to add to that then, yeah, it should have been mentioned during that item. I mean, if you look at the breakdown of that, 11 of those are for kindergartners. So, and it's even better news. Hopefully they'll have a great experience and stay here for the duration. But it does go back to that belief, if you build it, they'll come. And the elementary schools are here, and the kids are starting to flow in right at the beginning of their educational experience. So.
We have to market the good things that we've got going here. Again, when I took over in 2010, there were 200 kids that open enrolled out, 200 kids open enrolled in. It's about 50-50. We got 178 going out, 425 coming in. And that's what's happened just in this district in the last 6 years. And that's a tremendous boon to our budget. So again, I agree with you, Tim. If you build it, they will come, and I'm certain that's been a factor of that. But it is a marketing thing that we are going to continue with and try to attract as many as we can.
And I would echo, it's a testament to the teachers too. I mean, we're providing that environment that helps them flourish. So. Is that what you're going to say?
No,
I'd add to
it. I've just noticed a lot of marketing for our preschool program with registration, which is great to see, because I know our numbers, we had talked about that this fall, that our numbers seemed low. So that seems more marketing this year than I've seen maybe in the past. I should have mentioned it when the staff was here, but I didn't think of that.
When Brandon and the staff were here, that's part of that project approach, is part of what they've really kicked into action, that building. And not only are they having fun with it, but the kids are too, as you can see. So I think that, again, is another marketing thing. And that's all part of the gold standard in getting his certification as a preschool. So it's a good thing.
And I'd add to it, if you're going to mention staff, some of that staff in some of this, some of that is leadership too, because a couple years prior, when you mentioned that differential barely being different of the kids going out and coming in, I sat in an hour meeting with a previous administrator in this district that couldn't even recognize that as a problem, because ever since the open enrollment law was enacted in this state, Ames has gained more students than it's lost, and it used to be nearly double coming in. and it was getting really close to where it was even. And that identified a problem to me. I read it in the Ames Trib, went to that administrator and tried to have a discussion, and basically was told that it wasn't a problem. Dr. Taylor, you took over a couple years later, and I think, I did identify some of that as a problem, and I don't know what steps you've taken specifically behind the scenes to remedy that, but some of that's leadership too, so thank you.
Anything else from the board? Items from the staff.
Couple quick things that I put in front of the board. One of them comes from Vicki Hales at Ames High School, who's one of our business teachers up there, and she has been deeply involved in a program in conjunction, actually, with ISU and Allison Doyle at the ISU Research Park in a business engagement collaborative program. And she sent actually Mandy and Spence and I an email relative to a quick update that I thought you would find interesting, in that they've taken on about 30 additional projects from lots of businesses that are listed. There's many more that they are continuing to work with. And the whole idea here is to get kids some actual business experience and working in a business environment. We even have some businesses who have hired some of our ed kids or some of our high school kids after they're done with that one. But I thought you would enjoy that list. And I believe that Director Esposito has had some conversations with Allison relative to that with Story Construction too. The one thing, Chris, I don't know if you need to help me with this or not, but this was actually sent to our board president. It's a state review summary report from the Child and Adult Care Food Program, or about the Child and Adult Care Food Program, which is a federal program for child care, adult care, essentially emergency shelters, but in this case it was a Northwood preschool, and it's a review of their nutrition and meals and snacks program. You'll notice on the first page that they had a couple comments that were things that I guess you could say they were concerned about. One was during a family-style meal that they served there, you have to have enough food on the table to provide the minimum amount to everyone seated. Evidently, there was a discrepancy between either a quarter cup or a half a cup of orange juice that was put on the table. Their recommendation is to suggest showing teachers what a half a cup looks like. The other one was grain-based desserts can't be served, and I believe there were some graham crackers on the table at that time. The best part is actually the second page, where they talk about the level of commendations that go through there, and there's quite a actual list that includes being organized and neat and everything else. So if you'll take a look at that one, it's a good commendation for our nutritious meals and snacks program as it exists at Northwood School. Dr. Ross has also been working with some 27 teachers over the last week or two, taking a look at updating our student supply list in hopes that our parents will find out that it is much more family friendly than it has been in the past, and that we are making sure that the things that are on the list really complies with state law relative to what we can and cannot charge fees for, or can or cannot ask parents for. So hopefully our parents will find not only is it family friendly, but it will also be a little bit smaller. The biggest goal here is to make sure that that list of things that we are asking parents if they couldn't help contribute every year is all the same in every one of our particular buildings, and I think we're getting much closer with that one. We do have a facilities committee meeting tomorrow morning at 11:30. We'll be talking about the Ames High School project. There's a prairie project that is kind of in the works, and also some information relative to the ability to extend 20th Street or 16th Street or both streets as far as their current location all the way to Stang Road, which may help relieve some of our traffic that we're seeing on 20th Street, and especially in front of Fellow School. We've got some updates on projects there that Jerry will have. We'll have dropout prevention budget, I believe, coming forward in the next board meeting, along with some parent involvement things on cultural programs that we have at Sawyer School for board information. We will be going into negotiations for the third time with the Teachers Association tomorrow evening at 4:30. And that's what I've got.
All right, take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Esposito. Discussion? Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Passes 6-0. We're adjourned.
We will be going.